And welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya, and joining me today is Cassy Williams. Cassy is the strategic performance coach with Impact 88. Welcome to the show, Cassy. I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Likewise. So, Cassie, let's start things off by giving our audience a little bit of a background on who you are. So, tell us your life story. How did you end up where you are, and how did you get into home building sphere?
Yeah, well, I promise I will give you guys the short version of a long story. But essentially, I started off in the music industry years and years ago. My sister and I were speakers and singers for the National Guard, working with military youth. We were military kids, and we would travel and sing and speak for different organizations supporting military families across the US. And much like a lot of teenage girls, that's what we thought we were going to do when we grew up. We thought we were going to be these famous singers and get to travel together. But then, after several years of doing that, I realized, okay, I need to do something that is also going to pay the bills. And, reality, adulthood sits in. And so I ended up getting my degree in speech therapy. So I got my master's in speech and was practicing as a speech therapist for several years in the pediatric hospital setting and then a private practice. And I was doing that through the pandemic. And if anybody listening knows or loves someone in healthcare, that was a really challenging time for anyone involved. And so I was facing burnout. I was just seeing, multiple kids a day while also having to deal with the restrictions that the pandemic obviously brought. And so it was sitting in a conversation with a salesperson at a local builder when we were buying our own home that he said, "Hey, my mom is a speech therapist. I know what you make, and I feel like you would be really good at this and you could make a lot more money. Do you have any interest?" And so one of the things I've always shared with people, especially in coaching and in different trainings, is to never say no to an interview. So I did it. I took an interview with a local builder, and at the time, they didn't have the right position for me. It was just not the right fit. I think it was a sales assistant role, and they said, "We'll be in touch. We hope that we have something soon." I didn't think anything of it. I very much believe God opens and closes doors for a reason. And so a few months went by, and the day that I found out I was pregnant with my now 3.5 year old was the day that that builder called and offered me a job as an online sales counselor and designer. And so I took that as a God wink to take a leap of faith and try a different industry, and essentially entered the world of new home sales. And within a couple of weeks of starting out, my one and only salesperson was let go. And so I was quickly thrown into the deep end of this new division and had to figure out how to sell the home, how to manage the online side, how to do design. I was involved in pre-construction meetings, managing the backlog, managing the customers that were already in the pipeline. And so I quickly figured those things out through the education of all the great people around me, and then moved into a director of sales and marketing role after about 7 months and was able to help grow that organization. We had the greatest team, and then moved into the national sales training space, really getting an opportunity to serve and speak teams from all across the country of builders of all different size. And now I'm sitting as the strategic performance coach at Impact 88, where I get to work through our new hire blueprint program. I get to do different keynotes and help support all of our sales teams that we train with. So it's fantastic, but it has been a journey to say the least. And like I said, I promise that is the short version of a long story.
Well, I love hearing everybody's stories of how they end up in home building because it's never a straight path. It's never like, oh,
No.
I was a little girl and I dreamed of selling new construction,
Yes.
So it's always fascinating to hear people's perspective. So, Cassie, it's great that you've personally experienced what it's like to be a new hire. Congratulations, you got a job, figure it out. So tell me a little bit about Impact 88 and specifically about your new hire blueprint program, and why did you guys decide to launch this program?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to create and develop this program for anybody new to the industry. And it's funny because when we created it, we wanted it to be for people like me who came into it green, who didn't have any sort of foundation or knowledge of what they needed to know about the industry. But what has surprised us the most about the program is how many people are coming into it that have been in the industry for several years. And so now when I tell people the new hire blueprint, it's really for anyone who's joined in the last 6 to 8 years and hasn't seen this adverse market that we are currently facing. And the program was created because we want people to look at their community like we would our own business. We want them to have this entrepreneurial mindset where they take ownership of all the different components that is new home sales. We want to empower them with knowledge that allows them to lean into their processes, tools, resources, so that they can support the buyer experience from start to finish while also feeling empowered like they know how to do the job. I think there is nothing more frustrating than starting a new job or being in a seat where you just don't feel like you know what you're doing or you don't have all the answers. I don't think most of us like being bad at something. And so I want them to leave feeling like they know the right questions to ask. They have the answers to things they didn't before. They have the tools to leverage and to feel like they can go out there and do a great job, because the whole idea behind the New Hire Blueprint program and what we really stand for at Impact 88 is people over process. Sales is a service. I think it is so cool that we get to do what we do. I think that we have the opportunity to make such a big impact. Whether that's good or bad is up to us. And so I've been through the home building experience. I've been through the process of being a newbie and selling a home. And so I have these perspectives to leverage that really amplify this message of show up to serve and create a space where you're running your community like your business, and you will knock it out of the park in any market.
I agree with you. It is such a unique position in new home sales and how you truly are running it as your own business. You have unlimited potential to make so much money in this career, but you can
Mhm.
also just sit on your butt and make no money at all.
Yes.
So it's really how you approach it. And I agree with you. It's that you almost have to have an entrepreneurial mindset going into this in order to succeed, because you really have to know how to run it like a well-oiled machine. And I think so many people have been in this industry for many, many years and they've never gotten that training. And it's
Mhm.
both mindset as well as the skill set. So, Cassie, you mentioned one thing that's really different about you guys at Impact 88, and talking to Ryan on one of the previous podcasts, I know that it's true. And it's that notion of people over process. So, talk to me a little bit about that. Like,
Yeah.
what differentiates you really from other trainers in the industry with this people over process concept?
Yeah, I think sometimes people hear this and panic because we in the home building industry love a good process. We do. And a lot of our processes have been around for a really long time. And we're not here to say throw your processes out the window. What we're here to say is let's put people first again. Like let's put people first and then implement our process, because we truly believe that when we put the people first, all the good things come right behind that. And that is true of the way that we're treating our teams, but also the way that we're showing up for our customers. And it's this idea of when we focus on the person in front of us again, and we make a connection, and we get curious about why they're there in the first place, we can serve them in the best way possible. And I think one of the things, especially that we're seeing and hearing from salespeople right now, is it's a hard time to sell homes. We're really separating the strong from the weak right now in terms of new home sales, but it's not impossible. We are still selling homes. People are still moving. People are still building. And so it's really leveraging this idea of why that person is there to begin with and putting that person first over everything else, so that all the outside noise and the things that are going on can really be diminished, and you can show up for them and they can show up in front of you in a space that's genuinely, we say empathy and curiosity. Those two things go hand in hand and are so important right now in the market. And so that is what sets us apart. That's, Ryan, that's how he shows up. That's how our entire team shows up. We believe in it wholeheartedly, that when you're genuinely curious and show up with empathy, you're going to be able to serve that buyer in front of you. And I will dare to say, sometimes serving means saying, hey, you're not the right one for us, or hey, now's not the right time for you. But that doesn't mean you didn't serve them, because service and sales, they do go hand in hand, but it doesn't always mean you end up with the signature on the dotted line. And that's, I think, what really sets us apart.
Yeah, it's so true. Sometimes the customer that's in front of you is just not your customer. And it's so difficult to say no to people sometimes,
Mhm.
especially when the sales are so tough right now, right? Like
Yeah.
fighting hand and foot for that sale. Talk to me about that. Like why do you think it's a good idea when the sales are so scarce right now? Like why would we say no to a customer?
Yeah, I think you have to know who your customer is. And I think you need to be very clear on who you are there to serve. I just had a conversation with a salesperson a couple days ago about cancellations. And I think that, you could get a customer to sign a contract, but is that customer going to stick? Are they going to end up canceling? Are they going to end up not having the financing? Are they going to be a pain in the you know what throughout the process? I think sometimes it's easier to say no early on than to try to squeeze out a yes that's only going to cause problems and end up being a no anyways. Ryan and I always talk about in our training, wouldn't it be better to know like the chance of this person actually moving forward than having no idea that they actually don't have the financing, they're likely going to cancel, they're already in a contract with someone else. I was in a conversation with a sales leader, and it is like a thing right now that people are going under contract with more than one builder. Like that just seems so unheard of, but it is happening. And I think people just think they can sign and shop around and then and drop and cancel. And so as a salesperson, for me, it's like, how much time do you want to spend on the wrong buyer when you could be using that same time with the right buyer, the buyer who's actually going to stick and follow through? Because otherwise, you're wasting your time on the wrong person. And while you are wasting your time on the wrong person, the right person is getting help from someone else.
So that's a good conversation about the wrong and the right buyer. Now, here at Inugo, we specialize in giving you technology that oftentimes will help you see who the right buyer is by simply looking at their online behavior. Because oftentimes, before people show up in your model home, they spend time on your website
Mhm.
and we assign a score, how likely this person is to buy a house based on certain things that they've done. Maybe it's they favored a house, maybe they've designed multiple options in that home. How much time did they spend online researching? So that affects that. But how do you determine, is it a right or wrong buyer when they're staying in front of you? Do you have any tips for us?
I think the it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. If you have an idea of the story behind why they're there in the first place, and you've built a great relationship with the person in front of you, then at that point you have to leverage some emotional intelligence. You have to think about the conversations you've already had and come to the conclusion of, is this something that they're actually moving forward with? Ryan always uses this example, and it's extreme, but it's an easy one to relate to. If someone's house burnt down and they don't have a place to live, would you feel bad asking them for the clothes? Would you feel bad selling them a home? And the answer is no. You know that you're filling a need. There is a major pain point in their life, and they are there because they need to find a home. The same thing is true as when you're sitting there with a buyer who, maybe is in a situation that they're relocating, or they're in a situation where they've been renting for a long time, and renting is no longer an option, or they've saved enough to be able to purchase. Those are conversations that are going to happen early on that then you leverage in real time to say, is this the right buyer for us? If you know that what you have does not serve that buyer, and there is someone down the street that does, that's at your point, up to your discretion of what do you do from there. But I think in the conversations that you have early on, when you're being genuinely curious and you're showing up with empathy, you're going to get what you need from them to make that decision. And I think that's what separates good from great salespeople, because if you're doing the work on the front end, and it is work, people aren't just going to come in and spill their guts out. I mean, I would, but most people don't. People are going to make you work for it. If you've done the work on the front end, then towards the end of that conversation, you can do a great job at how to show up and serve them in that moment. And I think that's where most salespeople don't want to spend the time in those more challenging conversations on the front end. They just want to get right to it. And that's when we start to get the ick and the commission breath and the, oh, this is a salesperson, retreat, retreat. And that's where we lose deals. And that's where we see buyers go in a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. You can smell a commission bread from a mile away. So
Yes.
as desperate as you may be, and sometimes it's really hard because you may not have had a sale in 2 weeks or a month or longer, but make sure you are remembering what's most important here, and that is putting your customer first, making sure you are solving a problem rather than, putting yourself first. And that's, I think, a lot of times where people feel icky about sales was when they do put their own commission first, and that
Yeah.
does
Well,
not.
and I think too, being consistent and intentional with how you show up every day in a market like this is what will separate you from others. I had a conversation with a frontline salesperson last week who's actually in the new hire blueprint. She's self-funded and she's been in the industry for several years. And my favorite part about our conversation was she started tracking her sales from the time she started the program to now. And she was having dry spells. So she would have a sale and then she'd go a few weeks without a sale and then she'd have one and then she wouldn't. And since starting the program, she has not had a week without any sales. Now, has her traffic changed? No, but her habits, the way she's shown up, the intentionality, the consistency, those things have remained tried and true throughout the program. And it's proof at that point that when you show up consistently and you have these good habits and you leverage tools and the technology available to you, the results will come. But you have to be willing to keep doing those things even if you're not seeing immediate results. And so often we want results like this. We want it to happen overnight. That's not how it works in anything in life. That'd be like expecting to go to the gym once and lose weight. I wish it was like that, but it's not. You have to be consistent and show up and intentional about how you put that effort forward.
So let's talk a little bit about those habits, because I think right now we're kind of in that time frame where if everybody's coming back from summer vacations,
Mhm.
and right before my summer vacation I was just on the roll with my routine, right? Like whether it's exercise routine, whether it's work from home routine, like you have it down. And now I'm coming back and it's like, wait, what am I supposed to do here? Wait, you forget. So
Mhm.
what are some of those routines that you see with new home sales professionals that are always kind of putting you in that driver's seat, that you're going to be hunting, you're going to be getting prospects in front of you, you always have people coming in? Like, what can people be consistently doing right now as we're getting into this last push of the year?
Yeah, if you are not scheduling time for prospecting and follow up, that is the first missed mark. I think so oftentimes we will say, "Oh yeah, I'll get to it. I'll do it. It'll happen." And then someone comes into the model or, the delivery driver comes by and then you eat lunch and an hour's gone by. And so I would say that there has to be time on your schedule every single day for that prospecting and follow up. And you have to hold that appointment with yourself like you would with anyone else. I think we oftentimes will break appointments with ourselves because that's the easiest person to blow off and put someone else in our own way. But you have to be willing to set that time aside and hold true to that time block. And then the other thing is, how are you structuring your schedule overall and planning your weeks? Because we all know some days are meeting heavy, some days are appointment heavy, some days it's crickets. So how do you look at your week as a whole and say, where does this make sense to go? If it's a heavy meeting day, that's probably not going to be a heavy prospecting day. If it's a day where you have a whole day full of appointments, where are you going to put your follow up? So if you're not structuring your schedule to set yourself up for success, you will not succeed. I think oftentimes we don't take the time to plan and then we fail and we're frustrated that we failed. But it's just like anything else in life. If you don't plan it, success will not happen. I think about the way we're going into football season. And so that's like everywhere all the time in my house. And I think about how much practice and intentionality all these players have gone through leading up to this season. But it's not like they have a game and then nothing happens between games. The same thing should be said for you and your appointments. There should be a lot going on between those appointments that you're doing that no one else even sees or knows about. The prospecting, the follow up, the way you're managing your model, the checklist that you have with yourself to keep everything running. And so if you're not being intentional and consistent, those two words again, you're not going to see the success you want. And this isn't something that you can do once and then like walk away from, then come back to. It has to be a rhythm that you play out every single day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are the two least favorite activities of
Yeah.
any salesperson is
Yes.
prospecting and follow up.
Yeah.
And oftentimes with follow up, I know it's because we don't know what to say. With prospecting, it's just where do I even start? So do you have any tips for the actual process of follow up and prospecting when it comes to new home sales?
Yeah, this is my favorite part about the New Hire Blueprint is that each week you get tools from us that we send that are yours forever. And so we have this great follow-up cadence for them that we share. We've got a great prospecting plan of how to get creative to leverage your own leads. And I think when it comes to both follow-up and prospecting, it's finding what works for you. And so I'm a video girl. I'm all about sending a bomb bomb. If you haven't received a bomb bomb from me, we probably just haven't talked because I send bomb bombs to everybody. So I love to use that as a way to greet people before I meet them, a way to send them something after. And I know that that's what works for me. But not everybody is going to embrace video messaging, even though I wish they would. And so if you don't pick things that you know you're going to do, so like sending a message right after the prospect leaves your model or putting the note in your CRM, I would say that's where you need to start. If you know it's something you don't like that you're likely going to put off, it needs to be priority number one because the things that we don't like to do are the things we're most likely to procrastinate.
Yep.
And so when it comes to follow up and prospecting, find what you have found to be beneficial, even if you don't like it, and make those things your number one priority. And then track your success. I know for me, it's like, okay, if you knew that that video message is what got a ghosted prospect back in the door, or that thank you card you wrote is what got the referral, then even if you don't want to do that, you know it works. So do it again because that's how those things continue to happen and leverage relationships. I am such a proponent of leveraging the relationships with people in our industry, but also the relationships you have with your buyers to support future business. Like that is, I think, one of the things that it's so undervalued and doesn't cost a lot of money to build great relationships with people. And so if you don't have a lunch date like once a week with a realtor or a lender partner or someone on your team, or maybe a previous customer who you wanted to check in for coffee or you're going to drop some off, those are things that you should be doing all the time to continue nurturing those relationships because it's amazing how many of us know someone in the market to move forward with purchasing a home that we can plug in here and there. And so just things like that. I think, when I offhand think about what we can be doing, it's the things that we don't want to do oftentimes that are actually going to move the needle.
Absolutely. It's always the hardest things. We tend to push them in the back burner
Yes.
and they don't get done, right? And despite most people thinking that like, oh, you're just like a Barbie girl sitting in this beautiful model home waiting for somebody to walk in all day. If you're in new home sales, you know how busy it gets with backlog and all the other things you have to get done. So yeah, oftentimes it's Friday and you're like, uh-oh, I didn't follow up with anybody from the week before. Time just flew by. So you do have to really make it a priority. So I can see how really this new hire blueprint is a huge benefit, not only to new hires, but also to senior salespeople, like you said. So, what has been the feedback that you've been hearing maybe from some of those senior salespeople who've gone through the program or are finishing the first round now?
Yeah, my favorite feedback, in addition to the fact that their sales have increased, because that's the number one goal, right? Like ultimately, we want people to be able to make sales. So
Right.
the fact that we've been able to check that box is huge. But in addition to that, I don't think people who have been in sales for a while recognize the parts of the foundation they were missing. It's like we don't know what we don't know. And
Mhm.
so until they were exposed to these different pieces of content, they had no idea that this was missing in their process, or that their puzzle piece or their puzzle didn't have that piece. And so things like how you reshape and restructure your greeting, to even the way that we walk through questioning with our buyers, the way that you can intentionally create rhythms around follow up and prospecting, the things that you can do, minor tweaks to your overall presentation. I mean, I'm talking, we get into body language and eye contact and tone and gestures and all the things, those are all fine-tuned tweaks that we need to be conscious of because they do set us apart from the competition. I also have loved part of the homework in the New Hire Blueprint is to go do some secret shopping. It has been a game changer for people who have not been out in their markets to go secret shop the competition and see what they're up against, good and bad. And so just recognizing that they had cracks in the foundation that they needed to fill in and being able to fill that has been so rewarding as part of the program to get to see people who genuinely want to do a good job, who didn't have what they needed to do it or took what they did have and put in these new fine-tuned tweaks and amplified. That's amazing. Like that's what it's all about. That was the whole reason the program was created in the first place.
I love that. And I know one of the things that you guys are also prioritizing in the program is technology and use of
Yes.
technology. So talk to
Yes.
me about that because there's definitely some old school trainers who are still preaching about, make those phone calls, hit the pavement, which is great advice, I mean, true and tried. But how can we infuse technology and why is technology so important when it comes to your training?
Yeah, I think, we all need to work smarter, not harder. And technology is not something to be afraid of. I made the joke to a sales leader that if you have two competing communities, okay, we're going to get really basic here, and one salesperson is working off a pager and the other salesperson is working off an iPhone, who do you think is going to make more sales? Like, let's make it as simple as that. I know no one has a pager anymore, but that's how I feel about AI. If
Right.
you are not leveraging AI and the person down the road is who is working more efficiently, who is working smarter and not harder, who is ultimately going to make more sales. I think so oftentimes fear is the driver of why we avoid change and new things. But if we're not uncomfortable, we're not growing. And I say that time and time and time and time again in all aspects of our life. And so if AI makes you uncomfortable, if technology makes you uncomfortable, then that goes back to the conversation we just had. That's what you need to prioritize and embrace because oftentimes it's only because we fear the unknown more so than the technology itself. And it's one of the reasons why talking about technology and using these tools is so important to us in our training because we don't want a current person, okay, a current salesperson on your team having someone who's new, maybe not even to the industry, but new to your team, imposing any sort of bad bias about technology. I don't use that. I don't have to use that. Like, oh, that's they pay for it, but no one actually uses it. Or no, you don't have to put it in the Sierra. It'll be fine. I make plenty of sales. That's like the 911 emergency, red flag, red alert. Like, we do not want that to be happening. We want our teams to see the value in leveraging technology and these tools and resources that we have because how lucky are we to have them? Ryan was talking about these cards. I don't know if they were greeting cards or like after their visit appointment cards, they would mail out to every person. I tell my newbies, I'm like, y'all, it's so nice that you can just pull your phone out, take a video, send a bomb, and hit send. Like, can you imagine having to do all that work? Like, technology is here to make the job easier and more efficient and more effective. And when we lean in, we see the experience elevate for our buyers and people who have a good experience will return, refer, and convert. We know that we have all the data to support it. So that is why for us, it is so important to lean into technology in our training because it's going to be what makes our teams better. And we want them to be their best.
Yeah. So any tips for technology adoption? Like maybe you are a new hire and you just started a new company and you have to now learn a CRM, a bomb. Maybe they have their own contract platform, the market. Like there's so many different things.
Mhm.
So any advice on how to actually learn it instead of being kind of terrified and intimidated by it?
Yeah, so a couple things. First is take it one step at a time. Do not feel like you have to become the expert on every platform, every technology that your organization is using overnight because it's impossible. It'd be like all of us trying to be experts on all social media platforms. That would overwhelm anyone. And if you get overwhelmed, you're likely to give up or abandon that task. So I would say pick one and tackle it one at a time. I would also say don't practice on your customers. Like that is sales tip 101. Like don't practice on your customers. Put in a fake prospect in the CRM. Practice taking notes. Set up yourself in the CRM. I did that. I put myself in and I would send myself emails. I would set up my own sequence and practice on myself. Then I would see the experience from the end user. There is nothing wrong with doing that. I don't think any sales leader or senior leadership would be opposed to you doing that if that was your learning process. Send people you love bombs. Practice out on people who are unconditionally going to be there with you no matter what. I would say that when you're leveraging technology within your own organization, practice is how you're going to get more comfortable. Practice is where you're going to learn. Practice on the people around you, not your customer, and you will be more confident and have success. It's not overly complicated when you go at it with that mindset. And don't be afraid to mess up. It's going to happen. I mess up all the time. You just have to embrace it and move forward.
I love that. That's such a great advice. Don't practice on your customers because
Yeah.
sometimes we're like, oh, well, I'll just learn on the job, but it does make you fumble. It makes you feel unsure. And then once you let that uncertainty creep into how you feel, it can spread. So yes,
Yeah.
great advice. Practice on your coworkers, practice on yourself, but do not practice on your customers. In fact, Beth Bird, our VP of sales, always talks about getting comfortable with technology before your customer comes in. So make sure you
Yes.
know how to use it because, again, that uncertainty will creep in and it's not going to be a good thing. So, Cassie, tell us if somebody's interested in learning more about this new hire blueprint program, where can I find more information about that?
Yeah, they can reach out to me. We can connect on LinkedIn, Instagram, any social media platform, or they can send me an email, Cassy, Cassy, just think sassy, at impact88.com. All the numbers are spelt out, or they can visit our website. There are multiple ways to find us, but don't be a stranger. If you have questions, if you have any interest, if you'd like to learn more, I've been so fortunate with the group that we have. We're going into our last couple sessions. They are a wealth of knowledge, happy to plug you in and give you resources of how to learn more. But it's just such an awesome program. It has filled my cup, but also filled the cup of those going through it. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we are all here to make a difference, to leave our impact. And I think we do that through leveraging things like these programs and like the Nugo technology. I mean, it's just leveraging the greatness around you to be your absolute best in what you do every day.
Awesome. So you guys, I will be sure to link all the information in the show notes so you can easily find that. And Cassie, before I let you go, I know you're a published author now, so
I am.
congratulations. So, so
Thank
please
you.
tell us about your book real quick. What is it about and where can people find it?
Yeah, so Unapologetic officially drops in October. So it's being sold for pre-sale at all major retailers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the things. But if you are someone who really wanted a copy now and you don't like waiting, you can go directly to the publisher, and I'll share that link with you, cassywilliamson.com/links, to get a pre-released copy. And so that's how some people are getting their hands on it early. But essentially, Unapologetic, it's my heart on paper. It's the stories that I've been throughout my life to hopefully spark a movement around showing up as unapologetically us, to find the people and the spaces and the support who empower you to be authentically you. It's this idea of unapologetic truth throughout the chapter that I hope spark this fire in people to go out and chase their own voice. If it's not something you currently feel empowered to have, I hope you read it and you want to go get it. I hope it inspires you to search for your purpose if you're not feeling fulfilled at this point. And I hope it reminds you that you're not alone. There are a lot of us who've been asked to compromise, change, or tone it down in the spaces that we've been in, but the world needs you to be exactly who you are, because the only thing that you can give the world that no one else can is yourself. And so we can't give that to the world if we're not unapologetically us. And so I hope it fills people's cups. I hope it serves their soul. I hope it reminds them that we've all been through hardship, but it doesn't mean you can't do exactly what you were called to do. It's my second baby. I had my second daughter in January and this book this year. So it's my second baby this year, but I'm so very proud of it and really excited to be able to share it with everyone.
Well, that's such an amazing message. I'm certainly a huge proponent of finding your voice, especially women's voice in this
Yes.
industry or any male-dominated industry. So thank you for writing the book, for birthing the book, I should say.
Yes.
It's an incredible accomplishment, and I'm sure it feels very vulnerable to put yourself out there. So very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on here today and for sharing the message both with your book as well as Impact 88. I'm so excited to see you guys doing big things and really changing the industry and helping the industry grow. Whether you're just starting in new home sales or you're a veteran, definitely check out Impact 88. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect on here. So hopefully I'll see
Yes.
you very shortly at one of the events. Are you guys, speaking of events, are you doing any live events other than the new hire training? What's coming up for you guys?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up Speak to Lead in the last couple of weeks, which was our first live event. We are officially launching our coaching certification program, which will take place next year. We're going to have another Speak to Lead. We are working on another big live event in the spring. So just stay tuned. Watch on socials, follow along. We've got a lot of big things in the pipeline. It's going to be a fantastic year, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to hug you in person one of these days soon too, Anya. I'm so grateful for you and all the goodness you're putting into the industry. You're such a light and a force. And so we need more people like you out there. And I'm grateful to know you and your organization. I couldn't love everybody on your team anymore.
Oh, thank you so much. And likewise. And thank you so much for being on here today. You guys, I will link all the information in the show notes so you can easily find all the information. So thank you for being here, and I will talk to you very soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.